Hello everyone. Good morning and thank you for joining this session. We are excited to have you all here for the conversation on making AgriTech work, bridging the rural divide using human-driven tech solutions. We're really excited to have you and we would be starting shortly. We have our speakers, we have the moderator, everyone is on call right now. So I'll just introduce myself quickly. I'm Elizabeth Sholadoye, and I'm the Communications Officer at Extension Africa. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to our August edition of our monthly webinar series. As I said, we are really excited to have you, and we would be commencing the discussion shortly. So please, you can engage in the chat box, in the chat room. It's open. You can tell us your name and where you're joining us from, what you're excited for about the webinar. You can drop your questions, whatever you have as questions in your mind right now, so it would be answered during the discussion. Once again, welcome and really excited to have you all here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that welcome message. Good morning once again, and thank you for joining us for this month's webinar. As Elizabeth rightly said, our focus today will be on making AgriTech work and bridging the rural divide using human-driven tech solutions. Basically, this discussion will be focused on how technology can truly serve rural farmers and where it matters the most. My name is Ezra Kolo. I lead the technology team for Extension Africa, and I'll be guiding today's discussion. At Extension Africa, we believe AgriTech is not just about building apps and platforms, but it's also about the people that use it, right? And today, we are going to be asking the big question: how can we make AgriTech truly work for rural farmers? We have an incredible panel of speakers with us today. I think Ayodeji Arikawe is already online, the co-founder and CEO of Tribe Agric, who is helping scale access to finance and market for hundreds of thousands of smallholder farmers. And I think I can also see on the call, Jehail Oliver, the founder and CEO of Hello Tractor, an award-winning platform that's been dubbed the Uber of tractors for the way it connects farmers to mechanization services across Africa. And finally, I think I can see Nasiru Derma, the operations lead at Extension Africa, who works daily hands-on with extension agents and farmers to make sure our technology solutions truly reach and serve the rural communities. So maybe just a moment, we can just say hi, Ayodeji, then Jahel can go next, and Nasiru Dharma. Ayodeji, if you are speaking, we can hear you. Okay, Jahel, could you just say hi?
Hey, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure having you here. Nasir Derma, could you just say hi to the house? Yeah, I think your mic is muted.
Yeah, sorry, apologies for that. Good morning, everyone on the call, and good morning, Ezra, and thank you very much for having me. I look forward to having a fruitful discussions. Thank you.
All right. I think Ayodeji is struggling with his probably network or microphone. Yeah, so let's just give a couple of minutes for him to sort that out before we go into the discussion properly. So Elizabeth, you could also just reach out to him to see if you can sort that out. So I can see IODG trying to reconnect. Just a few more minutes, please. So without wasting further time, maybe we just go into the discussions proper. I will start with Jehail, where IDG figures out the issue with the internet or a microphone. Yeah, so let's start with you. Hello, Tractor. Yeah, so let's start with the basics, right? Just talking about assets and infrastructure. As you know, many rural communities still face unreliable connectivity, especially around Africa, and low smartphone penetration, right? How do you think AgriTech solutions can be effectively designed for low bandwidth and or offline environments?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Well, you have to design for the environments that you operate in, right? So what that means for us and how we've translated that reality into a technology solution fit for purpose is for our tractors that we place GPS monitoring devices on, which gives the tractor owner the ability to remotely monitor and manage their equipment. All those devices have offline modes where if there's no connectivity, the data is stored locally. And when the tractor comes back online, you get a full data upload. So as an asset owner, you have that constant visibility into your equipment, maybe not in real time, but you have the full record, which is important because if you're not the one driving the tractor, you want to know what the person who you hired to drive your equipment did. You want to know how many hectares they service. You want to know how they use the machinery. Did they misuse it? Is it being maintained properly? Are they siphoning fuel? So you get all that information, even if there's no connectivity. That's on the tractor owner side. And that piece is also really important for our tractor finance product, which relies on usage data. It's a pay-as-you-go product. On the booking agent side, and booking agents are the individuals who book services on behalf of farmers. They also have offline modes. It's an Android application, but certain parts of, I'm assuming a lot of folks are dialing in from Nigeria. There's parts of the country like Nasarawa where connectivity can be quite low in certain parts of the state. And so having offline mode where an agent can go out, book farmers for service, and then when they go back into the city center, all that information is stored locally, and then it uploads into the platform, thereby giving them still access to the tractors when that pairing can occur in the cloud, because that data that they collected in the rural area was stored locally and uploaded when they had connectivity. So it's really about designing for the environment and really catering to the unique needs of that environment. And low connectivity is not just a Africa issue, it's an agriculture issue all over the world. Most places where farmers are, that expensive infrastructure just doesn't really exist. So it's not an Africa problem, it's an agriculture problem. And if you want to solve agriculture problems, you have to think about these things.
Yeah, thank you so much for that insightful answer or response. Yeah, so just a follow-up question, right? Do we put into consideration the devices for this booking agent, for instance? Because sometimes we know some of the devices they use are really probably having low storage and so on. Yeah, do we put that into the design?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly designing applications that aren't heavy, taking up unnecessary space, thinking about what data has to be held locally on the device, or what data can be processed in the cloud. so you can have more users use the application, some of which have smartphones, but they might be entry-level smartphones that don't have high specifications. Same thing with compute. And, certain smartphones have low levels of compute. So processing heavy amounts of data locally sometimes isn't an option. And so we had to build for that. But you also have to be fairly disciplined and say, look, you have to have a bare minimum in order to engage on the platform, right? Because you can't, if somebody's got a $25 techno, I mean, come on, like, what do you want to do with that, right? Like, we can't build for that. The amount of engineering that it would take in order to have an application run on that phone just to accommodate maybe a couple dozen agents, you have to ask yourself as an entrepreneur, is it worth it? And all of these decisions have trade-offs because software engineers are expensive. Developing multiple versions of an application is expensive. And so you have to consider these things. And sometimes you just have to have a cutoff and say, below a certain spec level, we're not building for that, right? We had, on the opposite end of that spectrum, we had customers who had the newest iPhone. And they were saying, why don't you build an application for this iPhone? Now we have a web application, so you can use that on any phone, right? It's a web app, right? It operates anywhere in any operating environment. But we had a few customers who were saying, I want to be able to whip out my iPhone and use the app. I'm like, it's like 4 of y'all with this expensive phone. Congratulations for having this nice phone, but we're not building for you, right? The scale exists in this sweet spot where we got, 7,000-8,000 young people who can access the application that we built for their devices. And it's, a handful of devices that we focus on from a spec perspective. The edge case for the iPhone user, who's got the fanciest stuff, that's great, not for you. Person below that, on the other end of the spectrum, who's got the $25 techno, sorry for anybody.
Ayodeji back on the call. I hope he will be able to speak now. But yeah, thank you so much, Jahel, for putting context into that. Because we also have faced similar challenge where we have at least 97% of our customer base using the Android application, and someone comes, oh, I have an iPhone, how do I plug into this? Yeah, sorry, you might not be the target at this time. So yeah, totally understandable. So thank you so much. Ayodeji, are you able to speak? Okay, so I feel he's unable to speak up until now. So maybe Jael, it will just be me, you, and Nasiru for the time being, right? Yeah. So you spoke about some of the offline features your applications have capability for, especially for the booking agent, right? So I just want you to tell us specific, maybe there's a specific feature which you really you really love, right? That brings together the services, making it accessible for rural farmers. Maybe you can just talk us through maybe a strategy you use at Hello Tractor that really comes, that's just in that space in your mind that this really makes it work for our rural farmers.
Specifically as it relates to connectivity or just broadly? Which...
Yeah, so first, one feature specifically as it relates to connectivity.
I mean, well, I just mentioned 3. You want me to just keep going, or?
Please keep on going.
Well, I mean, so I mentioned 3 features on the digital connectivity side. The asset level, and then mobile applications, right? And then, we have also ambitions to work directly with farmers. About 2 years ago, we started launching hubs in these rural communities where we have a dense network of farmers and tractors in operation. We set up these hubs, which represent centers of excellence for us, where tractors can come in, get spare parts from trained technicians. Farmers can come in and see demo plots and get free training and capacity building. And that was also an opportunity for us to engage directly with farmers who have low levels of access to even the base level smartphones. So they can't, typically they're using these feature phones. And so we thought to ourselves, since we have these hubs, we launched a Book Now button that at the hub you can walk up, the hub manager can pull up the Book Now feature, and you can see all the tractors in vicinity. You can see what services are available. And as a farmer, you don't need a smartphone. You can build this on the map. You can book that field and immediately have access to tractor services. And anybody on the phone call can even see that tool. If you go to www.hellotractor.com, you can get a view of what I'm talking about with the click on the Book Now button, right? That'll give you some perspective on that. Don't book it unless you need tractor services, of course, because that's just going to be annoying for the customer support team. But you can see how somebody who has zero access to connectivity can still access these important services that are saving farmers a tremendous amount of time, 40 times faster than manual labor, and at 1/3 the cost, and a lot of financial upside, right? Increasing their income by 220% by accessing these services. And we shouldn't let your access to a smartphone and connectivity prevent you from unlocking that value. And this is one of many approaches to make sure our farmers are serviced within these rural, low connectivity communities.
Thank you so much. I really love what you said about the physical hub, bringing that physical human interfacing components to your structure. That really makes a lot of sense. So I'll just move over to Nasiru. Hi, Derma. So Jael has designed this best tool, very perfect tool, right? But yeah, we still need people to use them. Could you just run me through some challenges you've encountered around digital literacy and farmer adoption, and how you're addressing them at Extension Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, like you rightly mentioned, it's easier for us to invent, technology, but definitely we need to have the last mile farmers or the last mile customers be able to make use of technology. So basically, one of the major challenges we face while interacting with farmers, especially while introducing our application, is the large target of these farmers has already been established, are using base phones, not even an Android. Some of them are still using the analog phones, right? They don't have access to these technologies. And in addition to that, even the connectivity is another issue for some few of them who have access to, who can be able to afford or have access to the Android or smartphones. The issues of connectivity also is quite very challenging. In addition to that, also you have to look at also the affordability, that looking at the economic scope or the socio-economic status of the people in these rural communities is something that is very, very concerning. So one of the major things we do at Extension Africa is we look at what can we do that will now bring these people together, have them to have access to this technology, and also the tool that we intended to work with. So we tackle this barrier by combining our technology with trusted human touch, right? So we have a certain number of agents or trained agents based in the communities, right? One particular agent is to work with a minimum of 200 farmers. So this agent definitely, some of the selection criteria we have, he or she has to be tech savvy and has to be literate, being able to read and operate on a smartphone, right? So that this goes a long way in helping us solve the issues of trust and also bringing the technology very close to the farmers. The farmers doesn't have to be the ones using the technology. So we just want to have the technology to serve as an enabler for farmers to access services that we would now translate into increasing their productivity and also easing their livelihood or improving their livelihood in general. So what we did is we identify youth mostly within these farming communities, and we make sure that they are tech savvy and they have access to this smartphone, and they have so we also build the application in such a way that it has an offline feature that will allow the agent to interact with the farmers, so that and when they come to an area or a location where they have network connectivity, then they can now sync the data so that we receive the data and see it at the back end. So these are some of the major challenges we face with the farmers, and also what we are doing so far to be able to navigate our ways around these very challenges. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dharma. I think your submissions goes in line with what Jael had earlier said about having to build technology for those that really need it, right? So not everyone has to use it. You have to just basically look at what works and what you're able to do. So I can see, okay, it's off again. IODG was online a few seconds ago, but yeah, it's off. Yeah, so Nasiru, maybe I just continue with you, right? So, scaling AgriTech is not just about building the tools, it also needs the right environment, and this is where policies come in. So how can policies, infrastructure, and financing systems be aligned to support this inclusive AgriTech growth, and how we can access the last mile farmers?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this question is very important because some of these challenges we mentioned, we as a standalone company, or for the Hello Tractor as well, can only do so much. We cannot do everything to be able to solve the problem. So the solution to this problem needs a consortium of efforts, a consortium of partners that will come together, right, to make sure that we have we are intentional about solving these technological issues, or the gap between the target beneficiaries or the target customers and also the inventors or the developers of these applications or technological tools. So I think one thing that is very important, it has to do with the policymakers. One very important component of this has to do, there should be an investment in around the connectivity, connecting these communities to the ecosystem in such a way that we have access to these communities via good roads. Also the investment also in making sure that they have even the electricity, because in most cases, even when there is the technology, there is mass, for example, for MTN, Airtel and Co. In most cases, these farmers do not even have access to light to power their devices. So it's very important that those investment in this in electricity as well is handled by the policymakers, right? And also there is need for this investment in the education of the last mile farmers, right? So it's important that and that has to come from the policymakers, right? What policy do we have in place that will enhance the literacy level of these last mile farmers or the rural communities? And in addition to this, also, if you look at even if the technology and everything is available, then we have to now come back to accept the question of affordability. Will these people, will the farmers, or the people living in the rural community have access? Would they be able to afford the technology that is being made available for them to use. Because I can tell you, in a community of over 1,000 people, you can only find less than 50 smartphones that should be able to, accept or accept this technology, this application that are being made available. So even if they have the Android might not necessarily be able to house the applications in order for them to use them. So there's a very serious need for us to also invest in their means of livelihood. And that is where the financial institutions also come in, so that alongside the policymakers, to make sure that the lending, the loans that is being made available to these smallholder farmers is quite friendly and is something that will help them boost their businesses. Because in Nigerian context, I believe the interest rate is around 29 to 30%, which is quite beyond what farmers with little education can be able to operate with. So among other things, there's need for also private sectors like the Hello Tractor, like Extension Africa, the Tribe Agri to come together as well, so that nobody should operate in silo, right? So if there's this synergy, that knowing that, okay, whatever we're doing, whatever we are pushing towards the last mile farmers, beneficiaries, should be something that they really need, and should be something that will enhance their adoption of the technology, the adoption of every other thing, so that we begin to see improve in their productivity and their income, something that will also translate into the revenue these private companies are getting at the end of the day. So I think this is what should be done from the policy perspective, from in order to help solve the problem. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nasiru, for that insight. So it's safe to say there needs to be a lot of collaboration coming in from the public-private stakeholders, and also within the private space. The AgriTechs, there needs to be like a way that we can synergize and come together to make things work for the last mile farmers. Yeah, so Ayodeji is still not here, right? So I just move back to Jael. Yeah, so you've been working with these stakeholders for a while now. Maybe you just share a little insight on, we have some other startups here on the call, right, that want to know how AgriTech companies can better co-create solutions with their end users in mind, ensuring there's relevance and usability for whatever tool they deploy out there.
I would hope you're creating solutions with the end user in mind. I mean, obviously that's going to be the person that ultimately is going to help you pay your bills. So, and incentives matter a lot when you think about some of the lower value crops that we work in, particularly row crops, cereals. You're designing products that need to unlock more value for them. So you have to be acutely aware of their needs and ensure that their success aligns with yours. The agents that you might work with, their success aligns with the farmer's success. And designing those incentive structures are oftentimes very delicate. It takes time. For us, we were running an unprofitable business. This is for the startup folks on the call. For the first 7 years of our existence. For the first 6 years, I didn't take a salary at all. I was donating my time to build Hello Tractor. And we didn't have, we had a revenue model, but it wasn't enough to sustain the cost of building the tech stack and innovating and bringing new insights into the product to ensure that our farmers were successful, the agents were successful. And then lastly, we were successful by virtue of us being paid for doing the work, right? And it took 7 years to develop the technology infrastructure, the tools for the tractor owners and the booking agents, the back end support, which is even more robust than the front facing technology that people see, that you can download, and you can go to the website, as I mentioned earlier. The back end tools are even more complex and robust. It took 7 years to build that. And then when we launched our tractor finance product 4 years ago, that was our first year of profitability. And we built it on top of all of these products and insights and data infrastructure that eventually became profitable for us. And agriculture is tough, particularly if you're operating in the lower value parts of the ecosystem where the farmers are, because let's be honest, most of our farmers are in low value crops. And if you want to reach scale in serving them, it might take a little longer to develop out not only the technology and the data infrastructure, but the incentives and the design of incentives that can increase the adoption of the technology while making sure you get paid, right? And it took me 6 years to get to that point. It took the business 7 years to get to that point. So that's sobering news for some of you who were crazy enough to think that agriculture was a quick way to get rich. But I think the work is fulfilling. And when you spend the time, you develop a pretty defensible business model that it's just very difficult for people to step in and compete with, even big companies, because you put in the time to unlock all these different insights and build all these assets that not only bring value to the farmers, but also to all of the stakeholders, including the company that you're building.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you should have a masterclass for the insights you just shared. So basically, you had some
Masterclass
sacrificial
on
years.
how to be poor. You're all welcome. Join me.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to pay for that. Yeah, so Nasiru, yeah. So
yeah, actually,
Jamie,
this is what I've observed. People in agriculture make the most money hosting conferences and trainings. Okay, the people actually in agriculture are the poor ones. So I think we should all get together, figure out how to start doing trainings and conferences. Then we'll make money. But actually working with farmers, God bless.
So I think we need to come together to co-create this master class for everyone on the call. Please, once you see our flyer out, quickly just register for our master class. Yeah, so thank you so much, Jael, for that. Nasiru, so over to you. He made some really important points about creating value, even if you're not going to see like that immediate idea of getting so much from agriculture, right? But can you just give us a little insight on why you feel the importance of co-creating these digital tools alongside the operations, for instance? So we don't want our startups or us out there to just create tools from the comfort of our offices, from our desktops, right? We want to create something with the farmers in mind and the last mile farmers. So just give us a little insight on the importance of co-creation between the technology teams and the operation teams.
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, I'll have to commend Jael for that a very important insight. Because when people out there will only see the success, will only see Hello Tractor, and maybe you go online to check the number of tractors and the agent and engagement you get at a point. They don't see, the actual work behind, putting it together. And it's really quite interesting and I'm very, very inciting for you to share that, because I believe all of us on the call must have learned something from that, right? So thank you very much for that. And for the new startups, I believe this will go a very long way in shaping their minds, in knowing what is in it for what they are getting themselves into. But this is no means to discourage anybody, I believe. So thank you very much, Ezra. I think I would like to begin by a quote from Steve Covey in his book that is starting with the end, beginning with the end in mind, right? Where he said that when you're starting an idea, you have to have the end product in mind while you're putting it together, right? Because that is why the need for the people actually on ground to be able to sit with the technology builders, to be able to understand that, okay, this app or this technology that we're building is meant to solve farmers' problems, right? And bearing in mind that, okay, the technology doesn't have to be used by the farmers, but it should help, it serve as an enabler in easing the work, easing the farmers' access, for example, access to quality input, access to services like mechanization, and also access to output markets. So those on the field interfacing with the farmers on a constant basis have better insight in knowing what are the farmers' problems, what need to be solved for farmers, so that then the people at the back end building the app, building the technology should be able to think based on that expertise, their expertise, to be able to build something that will help in bridging that gap. And let me take an example, the Farmex application. If you look at it, it's targeted in solving farmers' problem. Everybody knows that farmers are struggling to have access to quality inputs, right? Most of the input companies are in the cities, while the farmers are in the last mile communities, hard to reach communities, right? So the application is now coming to bridge this gap, right? To provide farmers access at within the comfort of the village square, to be able to access quality input, and also to be able to access services like that of Hello Tractor and other service providers. Also to be able to access output market like that of Tribe Agri, so that we're connecting our farmers with Tribe Agri, we're connecting our farmers with also Hello Tractor. So I believe this was a success simply because of the presence or the involvement of those guys, the people on the ground, the foot soldiers, to be able to relate what farmers really needs really are. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that feedback and your response to that question. Yeah, so very insightful. I think just looking at the clock, we may have to keep things going a little bit faster, right? So just before we move to the Q&A, I'd just love to hear a forward-looking perspective from both of you of what success is going to look like in bridging the rural divide over the next 3 to 5 years. So Nasiru, do you want to go first?
Okay, thank you very much. So it's good to really have a vision of what the future should look like for us. So for me, looking ahead 5 years, I will define success as reaching a point where digital inclusion is no longer a barrier for rural farmers. So every farmer should be able to access inputs, not just any input, not generic input, quality input. Also, farmers should be able to access services, right? Also, farmers should be able to access extension services, including that of mechanization, the capacity building, and also farmers should be able to access output market, because it's one thing for farmers to produce. It's another thing for farmers to also have access to the output market. So we want a scenario for us. Success will be when we are able to provide seed to market services to our farmers, right? All the farmers that we're working with should be able to have access to seed to market services, starting from quality input, the capacity building, mechanization, weather advisory services, and also have access to the output market. So in doing this thing, I will be comfortable as head of operations for Extension Africa that yes, we are doing what we're supposed to be doing for the smallholder farmers. So this is what success will look like for me, for Extension Africa in the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Jael?
Yeah, I
So
think
what's this like?
yeah, he took the words right out of my mouth. I think, from our perspective, we're very narrowly focused in the mechanization vertical, but of course, farmers need much more than a tractor, a combine harvester, in order to be successful. And so we've been spending a lot of time working on digital infrastructure to foster more partnerships. We just released the SDK earlier this year with APIs for partner companies to plug into. But of course, the digital layer is only 5% of the challenge, right? 95% of it, as Nasiru was mentioning, is how do we come together in the physical world to bring these products and services and meet the farmers where they are in the rural community. And so we've been developing what we refer to as our beachhead playbook, where we identify high potential markets, primary and secondary crops within those high potential markets, specific locations, right? And we place a hub there. That's the physical presence. We make sure that the mechanization needs are fully met across the production cycle. But then we'll work with governments, we'll work with other private sector partners to bring in the right input, seed, fertilizer, crop protection. In some of our hubs, we've already started partnering with government on warehouses. In Kenya, we became the largest issuer of warehouse receipts in the country just by partnering with the county government. They have counties here, not states, to ensure that when our farmers access services, they can also work with Yara, OCP, Corteva to get the best seeds. And then as they're growing their productivity, do you want to really sell that high productivity farming off in the market at a time when everybody's selling the same product at the same time and prices are at their lowest? Or do you want to properly dry and store that grain, get it graded, have a warehouse receipt that you can take to the bank and get cash up front because you got school fees, your partners harass you for all sorts of money, and you can take that warehouse receipt to the bank, get cash while storing your grain so you can sell it 3 months later and earn a 40% profit even when you take out the cost of financing and storage, right? And I think that's what Nasiru was talking about, and that's what our ambitions are right now. Now, we don't have the playbook worked out yet. We're working on it. The team is making some great progress, and we have some pretty amazing proof points like what we've been able to do in warehouse receipts, some of the stuff we've been doing with partners in soil testing, and bringing in custom fertilizer blends. And I want to be clear too. We don't make money from this. When we partner with people, we try and identify how to make them more money as they support our farmers, because many of us are in businesses that are so tight margin that trying to step in and capture some take rate because you made an introduction to a farmer is oftentimes a bit premature. The way we look at it is if the farmer succeeds, they'll come back and buy more of our products. And which means by buying more of our products, we're increasing that farmer's productivity even further. Maybe they'll buy some more of our partners' products. And we're quite literally growing together, which is Hello Tractor's motto. And that's what we mean by that. Everybody should grow together. Partners in the private sector, startups like us who are struggling, big companies like John Deere, our biggest investor, who's also struggling. We all need to grow together as we support these growers. Even the government, right? I know we all can be, sometimes not as encouraged by the government, but many of them are also operating with really tight budgets. They can't do it on their own. There's some well-intentioned people in the government who really want to see farmers succeed. They want food security for their country. And it's very difficult to accomplish that on your own. And so it takes this coalition of the willing. So it's going to be everybody on this phone call. It's going to be startups all the way up to big companies and governments to come together and make sure Africa is food secure and net exporters of food to the world, which is our rightful place.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think we've learned a lot today. And one thing for me, I'm hearing from you, we are all struggling in this. We are struggling partners. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those insightful thoughts. Thank you, Nasiru, also. So let's just quickly go into the Q&A sessions. Could you, I'll take 4 questions just because of our time. Yeah, so you can drop your questions on the Q&A section, or you can raise up your hands to give you the avenue to speak. Yeah, please, it's time for questions. So, Tassie, I think your hands has been raised throughout the webinar. Are you trying to ask a question? If you are, you can go ahead, please. Okay, Ogunle Olatunde, please keep your questions brief. Olatunde Ogunle, you can speak. Okay, so if you're unable to speak, you could just drop your question on the chat box. Munjiri Eric, please go on.
Okay, I'm here now. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, yeah. Good afternoon, and it's nice to be in this session. I work with IFAD assisted projects in Nigeria, live vending projects, as the ICT for development specialist for the project. So a lot of the issues discussed here today, of course, we are familiar with some of the issues, especially most of us that work in the rural areas. But the question is, how do we address most of these issues? How do we tackle them? The issue of connectivity, the issue of literacy. You go into these rural communities, you do a lot of sensitization. Even some of them, especially some of us that work in the Niger Delta area, they thought you want to come and distribute money. Some will expect you to give them one thing or the other to motivate them, you know. So we face a lot of these challenges, but the question is, how do we tackle them going forward? And talking to relevant government agencies and all of that, I've seen a lot of things going on in Kenya, but you know, this is Nigeria. Talking to government agencies to assist, and you know, it's not a lot is things are not just changing, things are not changing. So how do we tackle this in the Nigerian perspective now? Let me put it that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric, for your question. Yeah, you can go on. Okay, that was Olatunde. Eric, or Shail, do you want to provide a response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a silver bullet, Olatunde. I think it's tough working with government, and some people aren't worth working with, right? Some government folks are going to be very supportive. There's some obvious alignment with the work that you're doing and what they want to get accomplished, and they're very genuine in their intention. And we've been fortunate to work with a number of those government folks in Nigeria and in many of the other countries that we operate in, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Ethiopia for sure. But some folks aren't so serious. And be cordial, be diplomatic. But my advice would be to exercise discernment in who you decide to work with. And if they're not serious, don't waste your time, right? If you're, you know, when I lived in Nigeria for 3 years, and I was based in Abuja, and we had all these government grantpreneurs, contractpreneurs, tenderpreneurs, I think they called it. That's what it was, tenderpreneurs, running around selling you big dreams, you know, $100 million. And you like, man, bro, nobody has ever made that much money doing what we do in the history of the world. I don't think this is going to be the first time, right? And that's a good way to, again, apply discernment to who you engage with. Some people understand this is difficult work. It's going to take time. And then some people want to get rich quick scheme. And those tend to be the kind of folks that will cause more problems than support. And so I think that's just it. But, and also I would say, be empathetic. You know, when you go into a government office and you recognize half of the government, the employees in that office are on furlough, right? And you going into that office asking for money and they're literally not being paid themselves. I can tell you for free what the outcome of that conversation is going to be. Now, government officials aren't known for their humility. So they may not tell you, I'm not even paying my employees. How can I pay you to do this work, right? So you have to do some research and again, be thoughtful about how you engage and be empathetic, because a lot of these government officials, you know, they're struggling too, right? And agriculture oftentimes is not the top priority with these governments at every level, right? At the local level, state, national levels. And so, you know, you have to consider those things when you're engaging, because as my granny used to say, you can't squeeze water from a rock. If you're going into a government office asking for money and they're not paying their own employees, imagine how insane you must sound to them, right? But they're not going to tell you because they got pride.
Yeah, thank you so much for that response. Charlie, you can go on. Charlie Renda.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity.
Sorry, Eric.
Sorry?
Okay, Eric, just
Should I go on?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you very much for this opportunity. Mine is not a question, but I want to use this opportunity to reach out to Jahil Oliver. I'm building something that is focused on so much infrastructure, similar to ways that is focusing on tractors, but mine is on livestock infrastructure, but it's a platform, but it has to be connected to infrastructure. I wanted to get his advice, not on this platform, but if you would allow me to reach out to him on an email so that I can have a conversation with him for an advice.
Yeah. Just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm you know, we all learn together, we grow together. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can connect with some.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Directly.
I appreciate it.
And that's for anybody on the call. My LinkedIn is just my first name, last name. And we can either answer questions there or set up some time to have a phone call.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jael, for opening up that avenue. So anybody that wants to reach out could just find him on LinkedIn. Charlie, you can go on. So I'll just take 2 more questions because of our time. Charlie?
Thank you. My name is Charlie Nyirenda. I'm from Zambia. I'm an agribusiness professional and I've been working around the agriculture sector for quite a while. So I'm interested in what Jael had talked about. He had indicated that building Hello Tractor was not easy because of the cost of technology. And I would like to learn from Jael just to see if there are any things that he came across which are good options in the quest of managing the costs, because when you look at building tech solutions, the cost of all these tech products and services is quite high. And when you're bootstrapping to build it, it may be a daunting task. So are there some strategies that he has found along the way which we can consider, or are there doors that we can knock on where we can get more incentives on building the platform?
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, managing your costs is going to be at the very top of everyone's list of priorities. If you're building within agriculture, it's just not enough money floating around to be careless with your capital. Let me start with the good thing. We're on a blessed continent with a lot of young people who are absolutely brilliant. And because the opportunity deficit is so large, you can find incredible engineers, developers, even data scientists to build out your MVP, to refine the product and build on top of that. Relative to the cost of doing it in a more mature market, you can pick up a lot of value just by prioritizing local hires. It pains me to see startups that have talent located outside of the continent. I don't understand it. We got great developers. They're underemployed. They can develop amazing products at a discount. So number one is prioritize local talent. And because we're in agriculture, you know, we complain a lot about how slow agriculture innovation occurs, mostly because it's built on farmers who are slow to adopt new technologies because they have to be risk managers above all else. And you don't have that many chances as a farmer, right? You got 40 seasons in your lifetime, right? You start at 20, you end at 60, that's 40 seasons. So you can't afford to make mistakes with those few seasons that you have. So it takes a long time for you to adopt new technology. And as a result, it takes a long time to sell new technology to those individuals. But what that also means is you have more time to develop your innovation alongside the farmer who's going to take a long time anyway to adopt it, right? So the first thing is invest in local talent and make sure you're developing that talent. They'll be value creators because they're not going to be as expensive as, let's say, hiring a bunch of developers, even in the US or even in India or Eastern Europe, where the cost of developers has been going up quite a bit. And so that's going to be key. And I would say the second piece is, as you're developing these new technologies, try and keep that feedback loop as tight as possible. Maybe develop first in an analog environment and try and replicate what the technology should do before you put down lines of code, because it's still expensive to build out the tech and the automations, but you don't necessarily have to start with that. You can start with the analog version of that and say, is this solution as valuable as I think it is? Let me not build a world of applications to do it. Let me see if I can do it in the physical world first. And then if there's enough adoption in this analog test, then I can think about digitizing that motion so I can reach scale more affordably. But you don't want to jump to, I need a product that can scale before you test it to see if it's even worth the investment, right? So those would be the two pieces of feedback based on our experiences to keep costs low, develop technology that's relevant, that can scale, but do it in a cost-effective, methodical way. It's about sequencing that journey, right? And doing the low-cost stuff first, gather the insights, which is the most valuable piece, and then build that insight into tech that can scale so your unit economics become more and more attractive as you reach more and more customers.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think Charlie, you should have gotten a lot of insights on how to re-strategize building your tech solution. So we'll just take Husseini and John Leonard next. And yeah, so Husseini, you can speak. Okay, John Leonard. John, if you are speaking, your mic is muted.
No, from my end.
Okay, so Husseini, can you speak? Lawal? Husseini, okay, Lawal, yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. My question is on the use of the app while offline, because my experience with offline app is that you can only read text, not even watch video, because for you to watch video, you've got to have your internet connection. And in this case, where Jail said that booking could be done offline, I want to know how possible that could be. Because as I was listening, I went online to your online to see how the app works. And part of the comment was that booking has to be done through an agent and not directly on the app. So I want a clarification on that. Thanks.
So if I understand the question, primarily bookings happen through agents. Farmers can also, if they're farming within one of our hub territories, they can just simply walk into the hub and book immediately with the hub manager that's stationed within the hub. But primarily booking happens through the agent. And of course, the application that the agent uses has offline mode. So as they're walking the plot boundary, digitizing and recording all the details of that farmer's field, primary crops, planting needs, planting date and service dates. They're also taking pictures of the field and the condition of the field and access, roadway access. They can store that data locally and then upload it once they have access to internet, access to data. But yes, it's primarily done through the agent, and that does a couple things. Number one, folks have to be trained on how to properly book, right? Like it's really difficult to just have tractors go out and service fields when a trained person hasn't even looked at the field to say, is this serviceable? Is this field, has it been properly cleared? Is it roadway accessible? Even training on using the app. We try and build the app in a very simple, easy to use way. But of course, your average farmer, I mean, is what, 56 on the continent? I don't know how many 56-year-old people you all know, but they don't download apps and just do stuff, right? I got people in my life right now that call me to order them Ubers, and because they haven't figured out how to use the Uber app yet. And these are educated people, well, I should say formally educated, because our farmers are educated too, just informally. These are formally educated people who can't use simple technologies. My mom, as an example. So, the expectation that a farmer is going to do that is probably a bit unrealistic. So we use the agent as the person who can both aggregate demand. So when the tractor comes out, they're servicing at economies of scale many farmers and not just one or two scattered about. But they're also technology transfer agents, bringing those powerful tools into the rural community and addressing the technology illiteracy that likely exists within these communities where you have farmers that tend to index older, right? But the offline mode is key there, even with technology literate young people who have smartphones. You still need to have the offline mode. And that's something that we try and build for. It's not perfect, but it works, right? And it will continue to get better over time.
Yeah.
Sorry. The clarity I want to get is still how possible it is to make, for example, booking while offline. That's the main issue I'm raising.
Yes. Yeah, we do offline. Yes. Is that?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? Sorry, maybe I didn't get you correctly. What do you mean by offline? Because I thought my thinking is that there are some app that works offline, And in most cases, such one you can only deal with text or reading. So it cannot be interactive. So I don't know whether what you meant by offline in your submission is meeting an agent or working with the app offline.
Yeah, so what I mean is you can input data offline, but eventually at some point you have to be online in order to upload that data that is stored locally, right? When you input it, the data is stored locally, but eventually when you do go back online, you get the data uploaded into the cloud, right? Because we have to access the data somehow. And so that's how we do it. And that's both on the mobile apps, but also on our devices that we place on the tractor. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that should have answered the question for Lawal. But the idea generally, think WhatsApp. When you're offline, you're unable to get new messages. When you come online, you get new messages. Just
Exactly.
think about
But we
that.
can't like, if it never comes online, I mean, which you want me to come out to your phone and just kind of scribble down on paper what you
Yeah. So just think about it like
it's
the
like
WhatsApp
WhatsApp.
scenario. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Thank you so much, Jael, for answering those questions. Just a quick question, the text for Nasiru. A pain point has always been in gathering true and credible data. Achieving that is only possible when we can get data in real time. It will be interesting to encourage partnerships as no one can do it all. Yeah, so I think this person is just talking about data integrity, especially when it is not done online. So how do we navigate this?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. I think this is it's a pain point as suggested, because we do collect a lot of data from the field, and and in most cases you come to realize that some of the information is not as credible as we hoped. And so what we're doing is we build in some mechanisms to ensure that while we're building the survey online, right, we should make sure that we do our due diligence in making sure that the data input is limited. It will not allow room for maneuver for somebody to be able to fabricate and impute data. And then after the collection of data, before even cover the collection of data, also our trainings, right? When you are training the guys that will be collecting the data, the enumerators, also you have to ensure that you make it specific that there are some checks and balances that will happen in order for you to be able to pay them for the services, right? So what we do basically in Extension Africa, we have a 3-layer data verification processes. One of which with the survey itself, second of which we conduct a DEX review, right? The M&E unit of the company will have to look at the data to look for some outliers, to be able to run it against run them with some formulas to be able to filter outliers and data that does not make any sense. And then in addition to that, also we have an e-extension platform. This e-extension platform is what we call is a toll-free line, a toll-free number which allow farmers access to call directly and at no cost, at zero cost at all. And so what we're doing also, we can use that platform to be able to sample the data, right? To call and verify the information that has been submitted by the agent or the enumerators from the field. Yes, it still does not solve the problem. We want a situation whereby we will trust the data as they come in. right? But it's unfortunate that that is not likely to happen. But we've seen improvement from I can give you an example with the recent data collected from the field. We've conducted a farmer profiling of over 100,000 farmers, and we were able to really limit the outliers, you know, the data that is not making sense, to as low as 3,000 plus, in a while before you get up to 20,000 data that does not make any sense. So so putting these measures in place will help in greatly in making sure that the credibility of data that you're receiving is improving as you proceed. It is not it's not an easy solution, and it's not something that you can fix with a flip of a switch, but it's something that is going to continue, and hopefully we will get there. Yeah, thank you. I hope I answered the question.
You sure did justice to the question. Thank you so much for those excellent questions from the audience, and to our panelists for the thoughtful responses. Thank you so much. So as we round up, I think a few key insights stand out from today's discussion. Firstly is technology must be designed with realities of the rural communities in mind, talking about connectivity, access, and inclusion. Secondly, we have to co-create solutions with the last mile farmers. This is relevant to build trust and make adoption much stronger. And finally, we also spoke about policies, partnership, and financing systems. They almost align if we want AgriTech to reach the last mile at scale. So on behalf of Extension Africa, I want to sincerely thank all of our speakers, Ayodeji for the efforts, Jael for the very insightful responses, and Nasiru for sharing your experiences on the field. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And of course, a big thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope you are leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration. And yeah, we want to be seeing more tools that work at the last mile. Again, I'm Ezra Kulu. It's been an honor to guide these discussions. And we look forward to having you with us at our next webinar. Until then, stay safe and stay inspired. Thank you so much, Jael. Thank you, Nasiru.
Thanks, Nasiru. See you guys.
Thank you, Jael. Thank you, Ezra. Thank you, everyone. Bye.